In today's video, I am showing how to set up a local network system in Godot for multiplayer. I am using C#, however this would work with GDScript or C++ if you're using Project Genova. So as you can see here, I've launched two instances of my project, and both of them have this enter IP address, create server, join server, and a IP address. So I'll push create server, and then over here I can type in the IP address of this one, so it is 10.0.0.221, and I can push join server. And I'll say player 1 has connected, which is the server, and then player, and then this string of numbers has connected, which is the client. To show how it works, I'm first going to show the scene. So we have in our project settings, we have a global. You can ignore the rest of these, but our network script is global. And then in here, we have a create and join button, which are connected to events in the script, a line edit, and then a label and a debug. So in our code here, this is our global class, and it has a singleton for the class, which is set to this on ready. And this just means that we can access it from other classes easier. And then we store a port, a max number of players, a server, a client, and an IP address. So on ready, we set the singleton, and then for each IP and IP.get local addresses, if we find one that starts with 192.168.10 or 172, we set that as our IP address, and then we break. So these are just the local IP addresses, which means that anyone on the same Wi-Fi as you can connect to you using these. And then if none of those work, we just grab the first local address and hope it's one we can connect to. But usually this works. And I've tested on multiple devices. This even works on Android. And then once we set that up, we set the connect to server and server disconnect functions into our multiplayer setup. So then down here, when we connect to server or when the server disconnects, we simply just print connected or disconnected from server. And then finally in here, we just have a function for create server and client, which both create a new eNet multiplayer peer, call create server, create client with the port, and then either the max number of players or the IP address we get. And then we set multiplayer peer equal to peer. Now in our network setup, this is the script attached to the scene with all the buttons and labels. So we grab our multiplayer configure UI, the device IP address, and the server IP address. And on ready, we first set all of these, and then we set three functions: peer connected, peer disconnected, and connected to server. And then we set the device IP address and the text of that equal to the network.singleton.ip address that we got here. And then on create server, when we push that create server button, we hide the UI and call the create server function. And then on join server, if server IP address is not equal to 0, so that's this text box up here, then we hide the IP address. We set the IP address to this, the new IP address, and then we create the client. So normally the IP address is what your IP address is, but when you push on join, it will switch to whatever you've typed in the box. So that's how you can type in the other person's local network and connect to their server. And then lastly, our two functions, or three functions. We don't print anything for connected to server since we already do that here, but in peer disconnected and peer connected, we print what player and their ID joined and connected and disconnected. And for peer connected, we use that console or that canvas layer.debug, and we also add the text there so that you can physically see it on your screen when both players connected. And that is it for this video. It might be narrow use, but I hope it helps you, especially if you're testing out multiplayer for a game. But if you want to see how to make a full multiplayer game, you should click on this video where I do a 2D shooter of exactly that. And until next time, see ya.